Right guys, welcome to a new video. If you're new here, my name's Ruben and this is episode 15 of the FVT Trading Bootcamp. Now, different environment here outside, getting some nice sun rays. It's pretty nice here in Australia, a little bit windy, but let's get into it. Now, in today's video, we're going to be discussing how to approach losses, how to come back from losses. We're going to discuss risk management too. It's a really important topic, and also just the idea that you have to accept probability. Now, we're going to start off with how to accept losses first and just discuss the term, because a lot of people, they lose a trade and they think that's the end of the world. You know, they lose 2 trades, they think it's the end of the world. They lose 3 trades in a row, they think their strategy doesn't work. And if they happen to lose 4, they give up. And that is a weak-minded person. So you need to make sure that when you lose, you appreciate that you cannot avoid losses, number one. But number 2, there's 2 types of losers or 2 types of losing trades. One I'd consider good, one I'd consider not so good, or maybe it needs a little bit of thought, right, or process in the mix. Now, what do I mean by good and bad? A good loser is one that follows your system. If your system is followed and you take a losing trade, that's what happens. It's a part of the system. If you take a bad losing trade, it's when you don't follow your system, or you FOMO in, or maybe you over leverage or do something silly, and then you reflect back and go, I probably shouldn't have taken that trade. Now, we're being quick with this section because, again, I want to discuss the importance of how quickly you need to move on from losers. It doesn't matter if you take a good lose or a bad lose. It doesn't matter. Good loser, bad loser. For me personally, I still spend the same amount of time reflecting on those trades. So if I take a trade and maybe I reflect on it and I go, look, it's a little bit risky. Yeah, in hindsight, I probably could have waited a bit more, whatever it might be. I reflect on it for 5 minutes, I journal it, then I move on. It's done. History's in the past. We don't know what's happening in the future. It's a mystery, right? And as a result, you have to accept probability. If you're the person that dwells on losing trades, if you're the person that takes a loser and then it's a bad loser and then you just beat yourself up for the rest of the day, the rest of the afternoon, then the next day, you're never going to see success. You're not going to be able to progress to the next step that is necessary, and that is accepting probability. Now you might ask, well, how do you do that, Ruben? Like, how do you accept a losing trade even if it's bad? Well, you have to make the conscious choice. You're in control of your brain. Like, yeah, some things are subconscious that you can't control, but you're in control over most of it. And because of that, you can program your brain to actually accept more and to accept certain things. And one of those things is losing trades. Just so you guys know, you have to accept the losers. Now, on top of that, let's discuss risk management. A lot of people will ask me, they'll say, well, Ruben, how many trades do you take? Like, how many winners do you take before you stop, or losers do you take before you stop? They're good questions. We'll get into it. Now, personally, I've got a rule, and it's 3 strikes and I'm out. So if I take 3 losers in a row, no matter what the risk is, I risk based on the quality of the setup, then I'm done for that particular account or that session. If I'm wrong 3 times, it's more than likely I'm going to be wrong more. So I don't want to put more risk on the table. And more than likely, it's true, guys, if you're taking 3 trades in a row and they're all losses, well, you're probably not thinking that clearly by the time you take the 3rd or the 4th if you're going to keep trading. So 3 strikes and I'm out. How much do I risk per trade? It's varied, right? I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not going to tell you how much to risk based on your account size. But what I can say is this: my risk is dynamic. It's dynamic. And what I mean by that is, just because I take a loser, again on the topic of losers, it doesn't mean the next trade I'll drop my risk by half. I don't believe in that. I don't subscribe to that model of trading at all. If I take a losing trade and that losing trade was like a B+ setup, and then the next setup that forms an hour later is A+, I'm going to risk more on that second trade regardless of if that first trade's a loser or a winner. It doesn't matter to me. I'm risking based on the quality of the setup, not based on my emotions. That's really important. And how do I know what's a good quality setup? Well, check out, for example, my previous video. I'll link that in the description below. I've got a few videos. I'll post those in the description below, just going over backtesting, data collection, and they show you, right, I don't win every trade. Sometimes I've lost 3 in a row, 2 in a row, and then other times I've won 5 in a row. It's all probability, right? And so that's a big point. A lot of people get stuck on that, I think, and I'm not saying to do what I do, but a big turning point for me, and this is just real talk, I don't want to, sugarcoat it or make it seem like it should be like a lot of other people on social media do. Like, that's the reality of it, guys. Each trade is independent. Each trader has its own probability, and in my opinion, why should you risk less on the next trade just because you lose one? In reality, each trade is independent. Whether you take a second trade today, say you lost one already, whether you take a second trade today or you take that second trade tomorrow, you're still taking that second trade. There's still an equal amount of chance based on your statistics that you win or lose. So why are you risking less? Because then what people find is this: People lose a trade, they're down. They lose another trade, they're down. Maybe they come back the next day, now they risk 0.25%. And that 0.25% trade could be A+, but they only mitigate a fraction of what they lost. Whereas the next person actually risks a proper amount based on the quality, and they're back up here now. And that makes a massive difference to your psychology. Like, it makes a massive difference to your confidence. If you're losing quick, recovering quick, and you're not stuck in that break even and drawdown phase for too long. And that's a big thing, people not accepting losers. And I've talked to a few people about that. And there's nothing wrong with fixing it now, but that's something that I've changed in the last months, 6 to 12 months, that has really improved my trading. And it's allowed that trading to progress pretty quickly. And after I take a loss or 2 losses, I'm not afraid anymore of losing, because I know I can make it back. And you might ask, well, what if you take 3 losers in a row, and those 3 losers are all A+ setups, and they all are higher risk trades? Well, if that happens, which it rarely would, maybe once every 3-4 weeks, maybe, I accept it. If I lose an account, an eval, I accept it. If I lose a funded account, I accept it. If I get a payout, I accept it. For me these days, there is no massive heightened levels of emotions on the upside when I win or when I lose. It's all fairly neutral. Of course, it feels better to win, I'm not going to deny, but you keep it pretty neutral. You keep the losses roughly the same as the wins. You try to make your winners bigger in terms of the actual size of the winning trade. And you can only do that if you're risking appropriate amounts. Right, so I know I've talked about a lot here, but this is just the reality of it. And I think that's why a lot of people stay stuck, unprofitable, because they're so afraid of losing that they do so many things that are negatively impacting their risk to reward curve and their profitability. And those things I've just discussed are some of many. Another thing is this, and when you start, it's different, right? But maybe you take a losing trade, and then maybe you try to take another trade and you want to hold for less amount of time. Each trade's independent. So yes, I understand, and I do promote this sometimes. If you take a losing trade, the next trade, when you're beginning or you're new and you're trying to, figure out your model, make back your money with that next trade. That's your primary goal. But once you get comfortable with that, you're going to start to realize that even if you lose a first trade or second trade, it doesn't mean that that third or second trade has to be any less of a runner than it should be, if that makes sense. If the trade has all the characteristics to let it run, let it run. If it doesn't, cut it short. And this is going to change your trading dramatically. Can't guarantee anything, but collect data on it, try it out for yourself, and you might see some more success. So I wanted this to be a bit of a discussion into my thoughts regarding trading and regarding losses. And this all ties in with the next topic, which is you've got to accept probability. I'm going to write this down. These are all the key points. You have to accept probability, right? So for example, I'll give you an example. This week in the Asian session, right, the call-outs that I've made from my premium community, Monday was pretty good. Tuesday, there was 2 losers. For London session, it's been winners for multiple days. Now you're going to have this. Probability is going to be spread randomly. So you can't choose, and just accept it. You can't choose when the winners come and when the losers come. Of course, you might have an A+ setup, and the A+ setup might have an 80% chance of winning. But that doesn't mean you can't take a loser and multiple losers on that system. It's not that likely, but it can, and it probably will happen. So you might trade in one week, you take a winner, a winner, a winner, a winner, a winner. The next week you've got a loser, a winner, a loser, a loser, a winner, a winner, and so on and so forth. The spread of losers, winners, it's all random, right? It's all random. And the longer people take to accept that, the longer it's going to be for profitability, in my opinion, because you've got to be the best loser out there. And you've probably heard that the best loser wins, and it's true. It's a true statement. If you're feeling like a victim when you lose, that's not a good mindset. If you're feeling like the market's against you, targeting your stops, well, it's not. So stop thinking that way. Think more of a positive mindset way, but also think through probabilities and accept the probabilities. And if you don't trust it, collect data. That's my best piece of advice, but you got to put in that work to collect the data. Now for myself, whether I backtest, like I've posted those videos for you guys, or just in general, like I know my edge works. I know if I stick to it, it works, and I know that I could take 3 losses in a row, but the next week I'll probably make it back, probably. And if I don't, if those 3 losses turn into 4 in the rare case, and it's a fresh eval or a fresh funded account, and I'm risking $500 per trade, and I lose that funded account because of poor probability, it is what it is. And we move on, and we get another account, and the probability starts to continue playing out, and eventually the curve continues to grow. So Don't worry too much about, just losing and thinking it's the end of the world. Worry about probability, and that will really help you in terms of your trading and succeeding. And it's not too long a video today, but I wanted to just have some real talk with you guys, because a lot of people are concerned about that, and losing trades, accepting losses, it's a big part of profitability. You can have the best strategy in the world, but have the worst losing mindset, and you're never going to see success. You're never going to pull out money, because you're going to be so afraid of losing a trade. You keep reducing your risk. You stop holding trades like you're meant to. You're not risking an appropriate amount. And again, I'm not going to tell you what to risk. I'm not a financial advisor, but what I can say is that you need to build a risk tolerance and a risk appetite, because most prop firms have a winning day minimum of 100 to 150. So your winning day should be that amount or more, in my opinion. Again, not financial advice. And that takes time to do. And the only way you do that is by losing more. And by losing more, you're more comfortable with losing, and you actually start to build a risk tolerance. But again, it comes back to that point, like in the video the other day, where I talk about pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. Classic example. So I'm going to call it there. This is episode 15. We've got another 4 or 5 or so more videos left. We'll get into some videos talking about New York session, London session, Asian session, PM session specifically. But I want you guys to go back, if you haven't already, and take notes. And if you're watching this video, if this is the first video you watch, join the free Discord below. And I've got plenty of things in there, plenty of resources. If you've got questions, leave them below too, but we'll call it there. All right, so I like making these videos, a bit of real talk, because no one told me this when I was trading, when I started learning. I was fed the BS narrative, if you want to call it that, the unrealistic narrative of do this, this, and this, and risk this amount, and risk so little that you're never going to pass an account because you keep blowing up. And when you take a loss, if you take one loss, you should call it a day. And if you lose 2 trades, and the next trade you should risk less. It's all probability, and doing those sorts of things, you're acting in a fear-based mindset, and I was doing that too, and I was never profitable doing that. And ever since I've changed those mindsets and changed those parameters, I've become profitable and continue to be profitable. So with that being said, guys, all the best. Any questions, leave them down below, and we'll talk very soon. Peace out. All the best.